Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Book Boozled. Today, me and Catherine are going to talk about The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. We are very excited to get into it. Catherine, how are you today?
Just dandy. How about you?
I'm good. I'm a little tired. But
I'm looking for that summer vacay, that Memorial Day getaway.
yes, very ready for a long weekend. Much needed in this household.
It's much needed everywhere. Station.
I would agree. I think everybody's ready to have 3 days off and not have to worry about anything, which is hopefully what you all get to do at home. Awesome. Well, so we're going to start like we normally do. We're going to do a spoiler-free review of The Cruel Prince. Catherine, what did you think?
I really liked it. I enjoyed that we had a very strong female character.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got annoyed that she just kind of seemed all over the place a little bit, and that there was a lot of whininess from quite a few characters, like Vivi, Jude, Taryn, even the princes. But other than that, I thought it was really good. It was a quick read for me. I think I read 2 of these books within 3 days.
Yeah.
So super fast going. What about you?
I liked it. I mean, I did have to kind of remind myself it is young adult. And all of these characters, I mean, I agree. There was a bit of just childishness, but they are supposed to be somewhat children. So I had to keep that in mind kind of reading it. But I mean, overall,
quite a bit of inner monologue on this one, I will say.
Yes, a lot of inner monologue. I agree.
Love an inner monologue, but if you're not an inner monologue person, you will despise this book.
Yeah, it's a lot of you do get all the details. It wasn't repetitive, I didn't think. I am an inner monologue person to, a normal extent. So I enjoy kind of seeing the thought process of characters. But this is only one point of view. It is Jude's point of view the whole time.
I don't mind that. I mean, I don't really want to know some of the other characters in our monologue at all, or point of view, because I feel like it would just be terrifying. But the world was very interesting. It's instead of how most fairy magic-y books have maybe 1 or 2 different versions of creatures, I'll say. They have all kinds. They had termite kinds, they had seelie, unseelie, they had antlers and people that were shaped like does and people that just walked around with sticks in their heads. There's all kinds of imagery, all kinds of different melting pot version of a fairy in this one. So you get a lot more than just your normal 1, 2, or 3 different kind of groups.
Yeah, agreed. There are a lot of books. A lot of fantasy books contain fairies, and a lot of them have them as different. Because really, the first one I read, the fairies, was Sarah J. Maas, and had the fae. And so I'm still kind of dabbling in the fairy.
Yeah.
Fairy character.
Well, even Sarah J. Maas, they were all necessarily more like one species. They just have different versions of magic. Whereas this one, there's quite a few different quote unquote courts that about the courts of the termites, the courts of the sealy, the courts of the underworld. They had all kinds of things going on. So there's a lot more than just it's a lot to keep straight. But
yes. And I always forgot that I was supposed to be picturing these characters with some of them had blue and green skin, and in my head that just wasn't really translating in my head pictures.
Skins with anybody but the sea creatures, like Cassia, which is the queen of the ocean's daughter. So she's I could see her as having blue skin because of the ocean. But other than that, I definitely forgot people had different colored skin other than the termites.
Yeah, yes, agreed. And the tails and the horns. So it's just there was a lot of imagery. And I really did enjoy that. I think she did a good job of describing things in a way that made it easy to understand, but I didn't feel like I was reading a children's book.
But it did seem a little high schoolish in my mind. I will say that.
Yeah.
In the way that
it's adult. So,
but we have read the series, and so I think you can agree to this. Jude does grow up a lot in the next few books. Yes. So don't let that necessarily scare you if you're not 100% in it. If you're 80% in, you're I don't know, then go for it.
Yeah.
But
It's a good quick read. The first one is the longest. So it's only 400, maybe a little less than 400 pages.
70 pages.
Yeah. So it's a quick read and the books get smaller, but I mean, I say yes, read it, try it. I know I've seen some conflicting reviews online. Some people love it, some people don't really care for it. I haven't seen anybody absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to try it, go ahead. It's not going to take you a very long time to read.
It is something that I would probably go back and reread once I know the whole storyline, because I have a feeling like once I know the ending, I'll love it a little bit more and I'll want more of the details.
Sure.
So if you're one of those people that like once they read through a series and they're like, oh my gosh, that was just such a good storyline, it closed up well, I could see this having that potential. I haven't finished it, Kat, you have, so yes. I know you probably have an idea of that, but I could see that being a book like this for some people.
Yeah. Agreed. And I have finished the 3 and I'm trying very hard, dear listeners, to keep them separate. Keep remembering which ones we're supposed to be talking about now, but I think I got it. But it is a good series and I think I would reread it. I wouldn't reread it again like this year, but it is one that I would go back and read.
Like if you're in a book slump and you're like, I like that one, might as well go back. Yeah.
Yeah, something easy, not a whole lot that I'll have to keep in mind while reading it. I gave it a 4.
I give it a 4.
For what it was. I mean, young adult fantasy. There's not really any smut in this one. So
if I could, I'd give it like a 3.75. But
yeah, I agree with that. I can agree with that. But yeah, I mean, I suggest if you like fantasy, you're looking for an easy one to read, I definitely recommend you give it a try.
I will say if you're dipping your toe in a fantasy, this one might be a little overwhelming with how many different creatures of fantasy they have.
True.
So if you've never done Fantasy World before, this might be overwhelming.
Agreed. It is a lot to balance in your head of keeping everything and who is who and what creatures are who and what they all look like. But I think that is, again, why you could go back and reread it, because once you get the story down, like you know what happened, so you can focus on the characters a little more.
I agree. For those of y'all who are listening and have not read it, if you're going to go back and reread it or read it for the first time, come back and see us. I think we're getting to the point where we're about to sneak into the details. Yes. But we're going to follow up next episodes with the second book of the series, The Wicked King. And then we're also going to go for the next week into the third one. So we're going to read, which is The Queen of Nothing. So those are our follow-up 2 books. And then after that, we've got, I believe, a Touch of Darkness.
Touch of Darkness, yes. So we've got the next couple weeks. This week and the next 2 weeks will be the Cool Print series. And then after, we are going to do a Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair.
Yeah. So if you have not read the book, or if you want to come join us after you've read it, go on and skedaddle out and we'll get into the nitty-grittiness of it, right?
Absolutely. All right.
Let's do it.
Let's get into it. So, got a lot of characters to talk about, I think.
Yeah. I think we start with the first one. Let's go with Jude.
All right. She does have a little in this one growing up to do. She's got to figure out kind of who she is, what she wants to do, etc. But I really did enjoy reading from her point of view.
I did too. I think to me, Jude in the first book was a little annoying because she was just like at first. Now towards the end, I really had a lot more respect for her as a character towards the end of the book, or midway through, when she finally started using her brain for other things other than petty drama squabble at school.
Yeah. I think she finally figured out that she has to think for herself, because up until the end, she was always Maddox's daughter, doing whatever he said, and then she was the spy for Dane, so she was always working for Dane, and in the end she has to figure out what she wants to do for herself.
Right.
So she starts thinking for herself, basically. I mean, she doesn't have someone telling her what to do, so she's got to figure it out on her own, which does make her grow up a little bit.
I do appreciate that she's a very strong female character. You know, that's the one thing in the past few books that I feel like we've had a lot of wishy-washy female characters, and I really loved how she just took life by the balls and ran with it. quite frank. You know, her dad said she couldn't be a knight. She said, F you, I'm still going to be a knight. And if I can't be a knight, I'm going to go be a spy.
Exactly. Yeah. Like she always had something else up her sleeve as an option, which I think is what, you know, she learned from Maddox being the strategist. Strategist? Yeah. English is hard on Mondays.
Well, he's also like a war general.
Yeah.
Like he liked to get his hands bloody.
Mm-hmm.
He has like a literal blood count.
Yeah.
So leading into it, Maddox, did you guess that he was going to overthrow Dane?
No.
I did.
You did? I did not guess that. I guessed that it was going to be the romance interests. I guessed that one, but I think that one was pretty obvious. But no, I didn't actually guess Maddox was going to be the one.
I had a feeling when he had his red cap, but then when they got to the actual ball,
mm-hmm.
And when Maddox was like, "You got to go stay by the soldiers and that are under me," that's when I was like, "Oh, he's going to do something." Like that's 100%. He's throwing this shit.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I mean, previously they'd been to plenty of balls and things like that, and they'd never been around, you know, the quote unquote enforcers, the soldiers, the heavy hitting men, the thing. And he's like, "No, you're standing by them."
Yeah. Yeah, I was getting a little suspicious. Like I thought that something was gonna happen. Like maybe I knew something was gonna happen at the coronation. I didn't think Maddox was gonna flat out stab Dane through the chest. And be that big of a part of it.
Yeah. I do wish we had gotten more about Dane and who he was as a person. Because I don't know if I'm sad or happy that he's gone, to be quite frank.
In case you've only read the first book, you do learn a little more that kind of makes you feel a certain way about what happened in the next two.
Yes. And I'm just
by the way the characters talk about him.
This book. Like if you only read this book and didn't keep going, you would kind of hate that you didn't know.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I mean, I was upset just because I mean, you don't really care for Dane. I mean, he made Jude stab herself in the hand. Like he obviously wasn't a good guy, but then it was kind of like the writer Holly made it out to look like he was the lesser of all the evils of the siblings.
Which I could argue that means Carden really is, because he was the only one that didn't want it.
Yeah.
Even though Jude hated him.
Yeah, there's major hate.
Major hate between the two.
Major hate on that one.
I get it. I do think that Carden was being bullied to her because he was bullied at home and there was no other way.
Mm-hmm.
That happens with a lot of bullies nowadays. It's not that they're just bullies just to be bullies. It's usually because they're bullied somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so I hate that, like, I kind of liked going.
You liked Carden or Dane?
Carden.
Oh. I mean, you kind of knew from the beginning he was going to be that enemies to...
He also pisses me the fuck off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a dick. He's such a jerk at the beginning. And the whole...
just showed everybody that I always like the bad guys. It's a wonder I made it weird, but...
I mean, yeah, like he was a total jerk. But then he also... You kind of saw that he had a line, but then you kind of questioned whether he had a line because he was the one that was like, all right, stop, when they were making her eat the food. But then he's also the one that threw her in the water with the Selkies.
He really annoyed me because he was so wishy-washy, like every man.
No, he needed to figure it out.
I don't think he knew what he liked.
I don't think so either. I think
if you didn't read this book and you only read this book and you only got one scene that I think we're both thinking of, you would think that Carden only did this because he didn't know what to do with his thought process because he liked Jude.
Yeah. It was a very childish, like, oh, he's mean to you because he likes you.
Yes. And I think that's part of what I get annoyed with. So I'm like, we're past this trope in the world. Yeah. But boys aren't just going to be boys all the time. But, like, because this one, you know, you get to the point where she kisses Carden when he's in the shadow court.
Yeah.
That's how she gets him to do her bidding at the second crowning and ends up putting him as king.
Yeah, because she gets him to agree to be under her command.
And to crown her brother, but what she does is she commands him to be still and just hold it out.
Yeah.
He now becomes king.
Yeah, and then Oak put it on his head. Yeah, oh, he was pissed. He was pissed.
I mean, to be quite frank, I don't know why he's that pissed. I'm going to put it out there. It's either between him being king, Maddox being regent, or his brother who literally tortured him because he wasn't great at swordplay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, do you not kind of like, well, at least nobody's going to hurt me this way?
I think he just doesn't like being outmaneuvered. I think he was embarrassed. I mean, he also always said he didn't want to be king because he grew up like a brat, and he knew that there was he knew that he was never going to be king. He was in line for it, so he never had to worry about being it. And he said he never wanted it just because he didn't need it. He was spoiled all throughout his life without being king.
He got to definitely do the spoils, but he had to think, like, if he crowned Balakin, Balakin would have killed him.
I mean, easy.
He just had to produce an heir at that point.
Yeah. So, I mean, Cardan, by the end of the book, they're still enemies. They're definitely still enemies.
This book is
interested in
a lover book. This is not an enemies to lover.
No, it is straight.
Said that in the non-spoiler.
Enemies to enemies.
It is just, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I could argue that it is a sisterly love to enemies book first and foremost. If we're talking any relationships.
Yeah. Oh, we can talk. We want to talk Tauren?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I couldn't see her.
I would never be her sister after that. I would never be her sister and name after that.
The whole first they're twins, right? And they're very different. Jude is the firecracker. Tauren's the sweet little angel that does what she's told. And Tauren doesn't want Jude to be who she is the whole time. With Jude's egging on and trying to stand up for herself, Tauren's the one that's like, no, don't bring attention to us, blah, blah, blah. But the whole Locke thing, done. I'd be done.
Okay. So I'm just going to say this. Taryn knew the whole time that Locke was with her. And she was telling her sister how she was going to like her boyfriend. And she's over here letting her boyfriend's friends torture her at school. Torture her.
Yeah.
And her sister thinks all is dandy and fine whenever she reveals it. And she's just like, well, he loved me anyways. It didn't matter.
That's the thing. She never apologized.
No once. And she just expected to be like, she drives me nuts because she thought she was so in the right the whole time. She's like, I just wanted to fit in and you made it hard for me. So it's your fault. I'm like, no, it's not. You put her in that position.
No. And it is, I mean, Locke totally manipulated her, being like, this is the only way you can prove my love. And he had the charm and the words. And because it's the same way he got Jude to like him, is he flattered her. And
agree. Taryn lives in Barry. She knows that everything's a game.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, she's still very much in the wrong. She should have chosen her sister over a man.
Love should never be a game like that.
No.
Love should never be a game. Your boyfriend is fucking your sister.
And you let it happen to prove your love to him. Meanwhile, he gets his cake and eats it too.
Oh, it drives me up a wall.
Oh, Locke.
I really just wanted to see him die in the second crowning or the first crowning because I hated him that much.
No, he'd still be out there. He's still
technically it wasn't exposed until right after the first crowning. So there is that as well.
Yeah. They found out right after because that's when she went back to the house.
Everybody thought she was dead when she came home because she did not go with them.
Yes. She was dead, but she had already captured Cardan and she was going back to kind of feel out what Maddox was thinking and if she should
trying to see what she could get out of having Cardan in her.
Yeah.
And then she learns that her sister is doing. Oh.
Yeah. And then they have a little duel.
I could argue they didn't have a duel. Taryn was about to die. She was about to.
She was gonna die. She was gonna lose. But then when Viv glamoured them into stopping, she didn't know that Jude couldn't be glamoured, so Jude about cut her sister in half, which was wild. So that's when they find out she can't be
glamoured. I feel bad for Vivi.
I do too. That poor girl just wants to be human.
And this girl is like, I've had to live for years knowing that your whole life is my fault.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for her.
Yeah.
She doesn't want any of this. She doesn't want to live in Fairy. She didn't want to be with her dad. She doesn't want to be, Maddox's heir.
Yeah.
She didn't want her sisters to live like this. She just wanted to be at home watching TV, living a normal life.
Yeah, she just wanted to be, because she was older. She was the older one when her parents were killed by Maddox.
And that's a whole mind crush. Like,
yeah. And so she was old enough to realize, she was like, this guy sucks. Like, I don't want to love him. Because the other two were young enough. They were 7 or they were 9, something like that.
I think they were 7 and Vivi was 9.
Yeah. And they remember it, but they just weren't old enough, I don't think, to fully.
Yeah. 7-year-old Jude and Taryn were identical.
Yeah. And it's 10 years later?
Mm-hmm. They're like,
so they're 17, 19. So they're still young. I mean, they're still figuring their crap out.
I still could never live in the house of the man who killed my parents.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Yeah. So the beginning of the book, if you've read this, if you're listening, that Maddox or Jude, Vivi's, and Taryn's mom ran away from Fairy and got married to a human. And originally she was married to Maddox, who that's Vivi's real dad. And Maddox eventually tracks him down and kills their parents right in front of them and yanks them back to Fairyland. And they've been for 10 years after that. So we've got 2 human girls going to school in Fairy, and they get teased and they get tortured and laughed at. And Vivi, I was a little annoyed with Vivi, I'm not going to lie. And I know it's because Taryn and Jude kept it to themselves how badly they were tortured. But Vivi acted like they were fine the whole time, and I think she should have been a better sister and actually asked. And like not just taken what they said the first time. Like maybe just look a little harder. Like obviously it's going to be hard for them, but you just thinking that everything's fine because they never told you anything is absolutely insane.
Well, and the other thing is too, is that Taryn and Jude's relationship was starting to get strained at the beginning of the book. Like they were already starting to get strained because Jude wasn't happy and she didn't like Fairy.
Yeah.
Taryn just wanted to fit in, and they were already butting heads before the law came in. Like, oh, play my stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel bad, I feel really bad for kind of how that relationship went, but there's no coming back from that in my mind.
No, I would never have forgiven my sister for that.
I would have let her marry him. I've been like, you're seriously going to marry this man? Seriously? We going to talk about this?
Yeah, there was no apology. They dueled over this man. Yeah. And her sister was just like, okay.
They didn't talk for the rest of the book.
No. Nope. No, I was going to try and think like if my sister did that and then apologize maybe, but no, like Taryn let Jude fall for Locke when he was already in a relationship with Taryn, and she sat there and was okay with what's her name, the Undersea's daughter,
Nicasia.
Yes, she was torturing them because she thought they let her believe Jude was the one that took Locke from her.
Which makes that super twisty because she was supposed to be with Carden anyways, and then she fell for Locke, and Locke stole her from Carden, and pushed her aside to go after Immortal because he thought it was going to be super fun and a big story to tell. And told this mortal that he had to freaking prove her love and try to go after her sister.
Like, it wasn't just there's so many betrayals in that I would never forgive my sister for choosing that over me, which is absolutely insane. That is, no, I mean, you've been through so much together. You were torn away from your home 10 years ago, and the only two mortals going to this school. You've been tortured for 10 years, and then you just throw your sister aside because a boy likes you.
It's spineless. It's weak. It's bullshit. And Locke also is just a bullshitter. Like, he's just tossing everybody around. And I'm kind of surprised that Garden didn't take Locke out or something. I mean, we know that we took out, what was it, the Cassian or?
Oh yeah, she did kill him.
Yeah. So we got rid of one of the friends, and honestly, I think Garden was happy he was gone. But
I'm trying to remember.
How are you friends with that? Like, I understand Nicasia because you have to be, because people are trying to set you up for the kingdom, but
yeah. His name's Valerian.
Valerian. I was getting
there. He wanted her dead. It wasn't like games to him. He was the violent, mean one. Which is saying a lot considering how violent and mean the others were, but he was the one that had the major issues. Like, he wanted her to throw herself out that tower, and when she didn't and stabbed him, he then tried to
break into her bedroom and kill her.
Like a coward, and then he died. Bye-bye.
Don't underestimate a human.
That's what she said. She said, what did she say? She said, you have no idea what I can do.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, she is a freaking war general's daughter.
Yeah, like, do you really think just because she's mortal that she doesn't know anything? Come on.
And Valerian just thought he could do whatever he wanted, walk around and do anything.
Yeah. It was wild. Her becoming a spy. I liked the spy route. But I love a good spy. I wanted to be a spy as a kid, so anytime there's a spy involved.
I liked the spy route, but I felt like she took it and ran with it in a way that she shouldn't have. I feel like if you're just now learning how to be a spy, maybe don't go on your own trips.
She was a little reckless.
Callous.
Yeah. She
should have just, sat back on her haunches. Within the first 24 hours of becoming a spy, she was already going off on her own missions that she came up with in her head.
Mm-hmm.
That really annoyed me. I was like, girlfriend.
I know.
We don't even know how to spy yet.
Give it a minute. I do love the Court of Shadows.
I do too.
I love the Ghost.
I do too.
I really love the Ghost.
I'm trying really hard not to get into book 2 though. So.
Yeah. We barely meet them. In this one. Well, the Ghost trains her on how to spy and up in the rafters and all that.
The Ghost admits to killing Locke's mother.
Yeah, that was.
Who ends up being Oak's actual mother.
It was Oak's actual mother, yeah. Because it was Dane. Because
it was Dane's kid.
Yeah, because it was Dane's kid, and
there was a lot of, I'm going to put this out there. This book had so much messed up crap with love triangles.
The love triangles, the family drama, every single
father's mistress slept with his son, had a kid, and instead of the son just be like, hey, there's options, he poisons her to death.
Yep. Kills her. Murder.
Because there's a prophecy saying that if his son is born, then he can't be king.
Well, he wasn't king anyway, so. Did not work out for you, Sir Dane.
It's just the entire, I need to meet Holly, and I need to ask if her life is okay.
Wait, what?
I want to meet Holly and ask if her love life is okay.
I know, girl, you okay?
You go.
You okay?
Are you threesomes?
Yeah, it's a lot. I've read one other book by her that I liked. I think it was a standalone or the beginning of a new series, but it was a long time ago. But it was not this. It was still fantasy, but it was not like fae fantasy.
This is intricate. There's a lot of like mixing of the tides here.
I know. The more we talk about it, I'm like, oh, like the more I realize we have to talk about.
Yeah. Like I thought this was gonna be a short episode because I really was like, it's pretty straightforward. But now I'm realizing how messed up everybody's relationships was. I don't think there was a single normal friendship here.
No, I don't think so. I think it all was scheming, or just because Maddox was so family first, and then
he's not family first because he murdered his first wife.
Yeah, he's not family first because he also is okay with Torrin betraying Jude like that. Like, that's not family first. It just, and then what's her name? Oleana, his wife, she's just, I don't like her.
Yeah.
She likes Torrin. She doesn't like Jude. She's just very, I don't really have a whole lot to say about her. She's a typical stepmother. Doesn't like her stepkids.
But she's not, the weird thing is that like, she doesn't have a single kid, but she is so like, hanging all about Oaks and everything.
Yeah, well, Locke's mom was her really good friend. So
yeah.
She saved her son and raised him as her own. So, I mean, I get seeing him, but she could not care less about the other three.
No. I can argue that she wanted them to kind of get hurt a little bit, punched around.
I agree. I totally agree. I think she doesn't really care. Yeah, so in the end, Cardan is king. It ends with him being absolutely furious and him telling Jude that if she wants him to be king, then she can actually be the ruler and she can be the boss because he didn't want this in the first place.
Right. And we're left with her scurrying Oak to the human world so that he can grow up normally.
Yes.
And learn a little bit more of her about, she's hoping 7 years, but she only has Cardan under command for a year and 1 day.
Yeah. So
I'm very curious as to why he did 1 year, 1 day.
I don't know. Maybe there's some like fairy binding in that. But it left it on a good cliffhanger. It was one that
I want to hear what happened next.
Like, it kind of wrapped up a lot. Like, it's like a part one, you know? Like, it wrapped up and it's a cliffhanger where you want to read the second, but it's not this absolutely ridiculous cliffhanger where it's obvious that she just wanted people to read the second book.
Right.
I think she did a good job of wrapping this one up.
It was a good wrap up. I agree with that. And, you know, if you didn't love it, you could just come up with an ending in your head that you would love instead, too.
Yeah. Easy peasy. That's how you mean.
That's not who I am.
No, I'm not good enough at that. Maybe one day if I could sit down and write a book, but I do not foresee that happening.
I'm not that. I can't sit that long.
I'm not that creative. I would be like, and once upon a time, there was a girl, and
the end.
And that's all I got.
And the end.
And the end.
Well, should we go ahead and let everybody catch up to us next week when we go into book 2, The Wicked King, so we can get a little bit more in depth?
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to our recap of The Cruel Prince. We will be back next week with a recap of The Wicked King.
Super excited. I love the imagery here.
I know the art's pretty. I like the art on this one.
Foreshadowing.
Yes. Very much so. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We will talk to you again next week.
Bye, guys.